today we are going to talk about reflexive verbs. But first I want to go over what you know. You know regular verb conjugations. These are regular verbs that follow the regular rules in Spanish. You know irregular verb conjugations. These are the verbs like ser and estar that we've covered. Also verbs like ir, and as well as the verbs that have irregular yo conjugations. So verbs like conocer, parecer, as well as the yo-go verbs like salir, venir, poner, hacer, etc. We've also talked about stem changing verbs, and in the last presentation we talked about 3 different types of stem changing verbs: E to IE stem changing verbs, O or U to UE stem changing verbs, as well as E to I stem changing verbs. Now we want to look at what a reflexive verb is. So one way to describe a reflexive verb is to think about it as used when an object and the subject are the same thing in the sentence. And what that really means is that the verb is done to oneself. So if you think about it, for example, you brush your own teeth, you wash your own hair, you put yourself to bed. These are actions that you do to yourself. So in Spanish, these are verbs like peinarse, pintarse, lavarse, ducharse, arreglarse, levantarse, and acostarse. If you think back to Spanish 2 when we talked about getting ready routines, a lot of these verbs might sound familiar. We really covered them when we talked about, in Spanish 2 when we talked about getting ready in the morning or waking up in the morning, as well as getting ready for bed and actually going to bed. There are a lot more verbs like this, so just keep that in mind. Reflexive verbs have 3 parts. The really key part here to help you remember that it's a reflexive verb is that it has the reflexive pronoun attached to the end of the infinitive. It also has the stem and the ending, just like every other verb. So let's take a look at the verb levantarse, and like I mentioned, it had 3 parts. The first part we really want to look at is the reflexive pronoun. In this case, when it's attached to the infinitive, it's just say. And it has an ending, and it has a stem. So again, the reflexive verbs have 3 parts. It has the stem, the ending, and the reflexive pronoun, which is the dead giveaway as to how you know it's a reflexive verb. So conjugating reflexive verbs. The first thing you have to do when you conjugate a reflexive verb is you have to take away the say off of the verb and you put it in the front. And then you're going to conjugate the verb. So let's look at our verb chart. And we need to know one more key thing here is that the reflexive pronoun changes based on the subject of the sentence. So if the subject of the sentence is yo, the reflexive pronoun becomes me, and you conjugate for the yo form. So if the subject of the sentence is to, the reflexive pronoun becomes te, and you conjugate in the to form, te lava. So we keep going. Ella usted se lava. Nosotros nos lavamos. Vosotros os laváis. And ellos, ellas, ustedes se lavan. The really key thing to remember here is that reflexive verbs are verbs that someone does to themselves. For example, you can wash yourself in a shower, but a dog can't wash themselves in the shower. So you would use a reflexive verb when you're talking about yourself in the shower, and you would not use a reflexive pronoun when you're talking about washing your dog.